Now, you call these baby religions. Does that help understand their volatility, or?
Well, yes, these religions are young. The leader is still alive or hasn't been dead very long. And so they're kind of volatile, or they're energetic. So they change rapidly because they're growing rapidly. And they're trying to fit into society, but they haven't learned how yet. So they tend to get on people's nerves and get people's back up. You know, for example, new religions are forums for social experimentation. They try new ways of surviving. They don't go out and work 9 to 5. They'll have a commune. They'll open a restaurant, for example, where people work as volunteers, and that will tend to antagonize local rival businesses. So new religions are exciting places where, in fact, they're engaged in all kinds of experiments in business, community life.
Do you see that? I mean, well, one thing I was going to say is, I mean, you see that as a relatively new religion, and why do you need to be a relatively new religion? I mean, why wasn't just Presbyterianism? Why be different from that?
Because of new insights.
Yeah.
A deeper way of instruction, a deeper way of understanding the human condition. And that's where every religion came from. I noticed that what Professor Kent pointed out, the problem of violence, the problem of sexual abuse, and the problem of authoritarian structures are right now being experienced most prevalently in the world by mainline religions. If you look at the crisis in the Catholic Church, you look at the situation of Islam. So there's nothing in what was presented that specifically should make it onerous for there to be a new religion. At the same time, where did every religion start? I mean, when Moses brought the 10 Commandments, he was opposed by those who wanted to keep idol worship. When they finally adopted and accepted, and it became a 2,000-year tradition, then Jesus came and he was opposed by the followers of Moses. And his followers were called ringleaders of a sect and put on trial. I think...
So does that give you comfort, you guys? Well, we're part of a long tradition. I'm not a kook.
I guess I'd like to sort of sidestep it a little bit. And I think that what Stephen mentioned earlier is important, that all organizations, or all religious organizations, as well as other organizations that involve people's time and effort and sometimes money too, business and in all areas of society, need to be monitored. They need to be examined. They need to be transparent. I don't think anyone reasonable would argue with that.
Do you think, well, there are cults out there, I'm just not one.
Well, I think that there are abuses that happen in many places, and they can happen anywhere. There may be, I'm not in a position to judge perhaps what group may or may not be involved in nefarious activities, because I don't make my occupation the investigation of these things.
But they are hard to monitor. Isn't that one of your criticisms?
Couple of comments. Susan is correct in saying that sometimes when society reacts against the abuses, society creates its own kinds of abuses. One of the difficulties with the Sons of Freedom is that officials felt it was dangerous to allow children to continue to live in environments where parents were making bombs. Now, that's absolutely no justification for the kind of subsequent abuse that the kids suffered. It's the case, however, that even in some of the groups that we're representing here, often what goes on organizationally isn't known to lower level members. So consequently, we have, I think, very devout, very sincere people who may not be aware of some of the higher level activities that are going on in leadership circles and political activities, say back in Japan, some of activities of Reverend Moon's inner family life and so on.
Well, in fact, actually, the perception that for example, unificationists live in an isolated place. 99% of our membership lives in their own homes. I'm a Boy Scout leader. I'm on the mayor of Washington, D.C.'s Interfaith Council. My kids travel. You know, the idea that it's all shrouded and sheltered, or that our membership doesn't know any of the difficulties or challenges that Reverend Moon's family have faced, that's actually not true. And what I'm saying is not that when society has reacted against abusive new religions, that they've created problems. I'm saying you can't tell the players without a scorecard.
Well, what's on the scorecard?
Many great what now are well-established religions began under persecution, and the history of religious intolerance, which is rooted in insecurity and the lack of my own sense of who I am and my own religious identity, that I see others as a threat.
Well, what do we put? I mean, I guess that's the question sort of today, is what's on the scorecard? How do you tell?